The Lehigh Valley economy and our companies here in the Lehigh Valley are very much connected to the world in terms of our export numbers of our goods being exported out of the Lehigh Valley internationally are growing. Import of component parts that are a critical part of supply chain coming into businesses is a critical factor in what transpires here every day. And a growing number of internationally owned companies have been locating in the Lehigh Valley, have always been in the Lehigh Valley for that matter. What are your thoughts, starting with Marty, around the issue of trade and tariffs, foreign direct investment into the United States, and what is an appropriate trade policy approach for the United States?
Yeah, Don, that's a great question. You know, this is a hot topic right now. First, we need to understand, everybody knows this, you know, we had trade deficits of about $550 billion last year. That's a pretty big imbalance. So with numbers like that, we need to make sure America is getting a fair deal. You know, we got to make sure we're getting a fair deal when we enter into trade agreements with other countries. You know, and trade does have the potential to affect all countries and benefit all countries, but only work if products are treated equally. You know, regardless of where they come from, if they're treated equally, that's fair trade. Intellectual property theft is something that we've been hearing about as well, and that's something we need to address with China. And I think, you know, having tariffs as a negotiating tool, a leveraging tool is a positive thing. You know, we cannot have our intellectual property being stolen from China. That's unfair. But tariffs also come with some negative consequences. And I think what I've been hearing out there, Don, is, you know, from a lot of businesses, there's going to be some initial pain. But from what I've been hearing, you know, there's people who are willing, most companies, you know, willing to absorb some of the pain for long-term gain. And this isn't only big corporations that we have here in the Lehigh Valley. We're talking about farmers as well. I mean, the soybean issues right now and corn and our ag industry is something. So tariffs hitting everybody across the board, from large corporations to smaller farmers. But again, I think most people are willing to have a little early pain for the long-term gain. Now the question is, what's that runway look like? How long is that going to last? And nobody knows that. And as we know, Lehigh Valley does benefit greatly from foreign direct investment. Don, you've been doing your job, absolutely. That's a great result. But more needs to be done to promote that. Lehigh Valley is a great place. It's a great place to invest. Look at companies like Fueling, the first manufacturer from China to locate right here in Pennsylvania, right here in the Lehigh Valley. I mean, so again, we do have some great things to offer here. We also have companies based out of Germany, France, Switzerland, Mexico, Ireland, India, just to name a few. So Lehigh Valley is on the map for a great place to do business at. And these are companies that made huge investments in our communities, and we embrace them, and we need more of them. And I really think that's a direct result from the tax code change. So with lower corporate income, with the lower corporate tax, more and more companies are going to start investing here than other places. This is a positive thing right now. We're seeing a great growth right here in the Lehigh Valley. So bottom line is new tax law, rollback in regulations is spurring growth right here in the Lehigh Valley, not only from companies here in America, but companies across the world. So,
thank you. Susan, I'm going to go to you. The same question, thoughts about trade and tariffs, FDI, and trade policy for the U.S.
Well, I don't think there's any question that we have to have a level playing field when it comes to trade. We need to make sure that our workers are protected, and we have to make sure that our manufacturers are able to increase their exports. I mean, that seems to be a fairly bipartisan approach to this that we really need to have. When it comes to tariffs, I'm not opposed to the concept of tariffs, and I understand the need to go after bad actors, but I feel as though the administration's strategy was not well thought out, wasn't smart and strategic enough. An example of that is what's happening to the farmers. Mr. Nothstein mentioned the farmers. Well, they've got a bailout coming, but that's a short-term solution. It's not a long-term solution. If they lose their market share, it's not going to come back. So I think that we really have to have a very carefully thought-out strategy, and we can't make enemies of our allies. That's the other thing. I really think that that's a bad idea. We've seen retaliation that's driving up the cost of our supplies and our goods. So, you know, not to repeat myself, but we really have to have smart strategic trade policies there's a long-term plan for them. When it comes to things like the recent NAFTA 2.0, as it's called, you know, we don't know what the final details are going to be on that. It's going to have to be evaluated, at least from my point of view, right in the context of what will happen right here in the Lehigh Valley to our industries and to our workers. We want to make sure that our local businesses are able to export to foreign markets. And we have to also make sure that our jobs aren't outsourced. So, and the main thing is that we have to have consequences for breaking deals and make sure that we have strict enforcement of them.
Thank you. Tim?
Trade wars are a terrible idea, and everyone involved with them loses. Let's just start first by saying tariffs are just another word for taxes. We should be working at all times to have freer trade, less tariffs, less hindrances to trade itself, less subsidies would be ideal too. Free trade is, as I said, one of the cornerstones of a strong economy. I talk to businesses in the Lehigh Valley when the president started escalating these tariffs and this trade war, who said to me, Tim, the tax cut was great for us. The tax cut was great. I thought I was going to be able to invest in more workers. I thought I was going to be able to get more equipment. And ultimately, now I can't, because the cost of steel and aluminum is so much that I can't do it anymore. So we want fair trade, of course, but the fair trade is free trade. And using tariffs as a tool is a horrible idea. It's basically hurting our own people to try to get to a situation that we have other means of getting to. Now, in terms of trade deficits, I think it's an economic misunderstanding to obsess about trade deficits. I went to Wegmans today, and I bought a sandwich at Wegmans. I spent $6 on a sandwich. I gave them $6. They gave me a sandwich. So it was great for both of us, but I have a trade deficit with Wegmans in that situation. That doesn't make it bad. It's just, it's the way that the global economy works. So the other thing about trade wars is that it ends up being regressive in the sense that it matters to people. I mean, the idea that people can just kind of take pain for a while, it's not good for businesses, and it's not good for consumers who, when they go to Target or they go to Walmart and something costs more than it used to, that affects people. It affects people. And it's so, basically I think that we need to, at all times, be going towards freer trade with less tariffs, and that's, as I said, it's one of the backbones to a healthy economy.